When you close your eyes at night, you might believe the day has ended, but your space continues to speak to your body, your breath, your subconscious. In Feng Shui, the bedroom is not just a room for rest. It is the most intimate, energetic container in your home, and the energy beside your bed doesn't sleep. It watches, it holds, it imprints, which means the objects and living beings within that space, especially your plants, carry more than oxygen. They carry intention. They influence what you release, what you retain, and what you are preparing to receive. That's why choosing the right plant for your bedroom isn't just decoration, it's direction. Think of it this way. If your bed is the place where your soul returns to recharge, then the energy surrounding it should feel like a quiet guardian. Most people focus on Feng Shui for front doors, wealth corners, or desks for productivity. But the bedroom, this is where your chi becomes soft, vulnerable, reprogrammable. It is not a performance space. It is a healing space. And the plants you place here aren't just for beauty. They must protect. They must restore. They must know how to whisper peace. In this episode of New Day Mindfulness, we'll explore 3 powerful low-interference plants specifically aligned for bedroom energy. Each one has been selected for its subtle qi, its compatibility with yin-dominant environments, and its ability to hold space without disturbing the delicate flow of rest. These are not high-maintenance symbols or trend-driven choices. These are time-honored allies in the art of emotional recovery, inner safety, and restorative sleep. From ancient gardens in southern China to modern sanctuaries built on intention rather than excess, these plants have one thing in common. They know how to support you in silence. We're not going to flood your space with greenery. This isn't about overstuffing corners or filling air with scents. In fact, too much plant energy in a bedroom can create agitation. The plants we'll share today, they are carefully chosen for those who are sensitive, transitioning, or simply ready to return to a rhythm of rest that doesn't require effort to access. These plants don't chase, they anchor. They don't project, they receive. They allow your room to become more than a place to collapse. They make it a place to rise again, gently, night after night. Now, if you've ever felt like your sleep is light, your dreams chaotic, or your mornings heavy, pause. Your environment may be signaling that something isn't aligned. You might not need new sheets, a softer pillow, or blackout curtains. You might just need a different energetic presence in the room. A living presence that doesn't command your attention, but quietly clears space for peace to return. And before we step deeper into this episode, I want to thank you for being part of this community. New Day Mindfulness is a space where ancient wisdom meets modern living, where design is not just visual, but spiritual. If this video offers something of value, a shift in how you see your bedroom, your rest, your energy, I'd love for you to support this journey. Leave a like to let us know we're serving you well. Share this with someone creating a sanctuary for themselves after a season of chaos or change. And subscribe. We're growing toward 2,000 subscribers, and each voice helps this message travel further. Each person who joins helps more homes become places of purpose, not just appearance. So with that, let's begin where sleep truly starts, not with darkness, but with energy. Let's discover the 3 plants that know how to hold your rest as gently as you deserve. Plant 1, lavender. Sleep, nervous system reset, and yin balance. Lavender, perhaps more than any other plant found in a bedroom, carries a lineage of deep, ancient wisdom encoded into its scent, its structure, and its subtle field of influence. In the practice of Feng Shui, it is not simply a flower. It is a frequency, a tuning fork for the nervous system, a gentle dissolver of heat, chatter, and chaotic remnants of the day. This isn't just folklore. The color itself, soft purple or dusty violet, contains the energetic signature of yin balance. It represents calm, reflection, and the space between thoughts where healing can begin. Not all flowers soothe, but lavender does, with clarity and intention. The energetic makeup of lavender is what makes it ideal for the bedroom, particularly for those whose minds do not quiet easily when the lights go off. In Feng Shui, rooms of rest require containment. This means we must be mindful of energy that scatters or stimulates. Lavender does not stimulate. It wraps its energy inward, then gently unwinds the tension in your space. It has the ability to absorb fire energy, the excess of thought, of pace, of emotional sharpness, and release it as cool mental clarity. This is why so many ancient temples placed lavender bundles near sleeping quarters, not for fragrance, but for frequency control. The scent itself, used properly, slows the brain's overactivity. It signals to the body that rest is not only allowed, but safe. Placement is everything. Feng Shui does not treat lavender as a visual centerpiece, but as a perimeter guardian. A small pot on the bedside table works best, though always off-center, never directly above the head or flush with your sleeping direction. It should act as a soft witness, not an energetic overseer. The ideal container is one made from natural materials, ceramic or clay, finished in colors that don't shout. Think cream, pale lavender, dusty gray, or soft earth tones. Harsh patterns, synthetic glazes, or vivid hues defeat the purpose. This is not a showpiece, it's a companion for your inner landscape. Symbolically, lavender holds emotional memory, not the kind that loops, but the kind that releases. Its presence next to your pillow invites dreams to process gently, for grief to soften its grip, and for recurring mental loops to unthread themselves slowly, night by night. In Feng Shui, it's not enough to want peace. You must create the conditions in which peace can stay. Lavender makes peace tangible. It signals to the body that containment is possible, that closure is possible, that you do not have to carry today into tomorrow. But like all energy work, balance is essential. Lavender should never dominate the room. Many people make the mistake of using essential oils too heavily or placing large dried lavender bouquets on dressers or tucked under pillows. This overwhelms the system and flips the plant's energy from yin to pseudo-yang. In other words, too much lavender creates subtle stimulation, not restoration. The rule of Feng Shui applies here with precision. Let the plant speak, but don't let it shout. Allow its qi to mingle with yours, not override it. In bedrooms smaller than 12 square meters, one small pot or a modest dried bunch is enough. More than that becomes interference. There is also a danger in letting dried lavender sit too long. Its energy, once helpful, becomes stale if not refreshed. You wouldn't drink old water for clarity. Similarly, you shouldn't keep dry botanicals past their vitality. Replace them monthly. Let the act of renewal itself become a ritual of gratitude, of energetic cleanliness. This teaches your subconscious to recognize that healing is an active choice, not a passive hope. If you live with a partner, be mindful of lavender's role in your shared space. Its energy softens and repairs, but it also sharpens emotional intuition. If there is unspoken conflict between you and your partner, lavender may amplify what needs resolution. That's not a flaw, that's its gift. But be prepared. This is not a plant that lets you hide from yourself or your dynamic. It brings transparency in the form of gentle awareness. It invites compassion, not as an idea, but as a practice. Pair lavender with soft, diffuse lighting if you want to deepen its impact. Avoid sharp LED bulbs or a cold tone light. The goal is not to highlight it, but to hold it in a field that matches its mood. A small lamp with a cloth shade set on a dimmer or soft bulb enhances its quiet work. It's best placed on the opposite side of the room's dominant energy flow. For example, if your bed faces the window, place lavender so it subtly intercepts that direction, creating a soft curtain for incoming energy. Think of it as casting a soft fog around overstimulation. Lavender works especially well for people who tend to carry their mental to-do list into bed. If you're someone who lies down and immediately thinks of tomorrow's tasks, missed emails, or internal conversations you wish had gone differently, this is your plant. It grounds you not with weight, but with spaciousness. It doesn't clear the mind by force. It expands it just enough for thought to float away on its own. And that's key, because real sleep doesn't begin when your body stills. It begins when your thoughts loosen their grip. You might also consider pairing lavender with a symbolic affirmation, not a mantra shouted into the void, but a sentence spoken gently in your head as you turn off the light. Something like, "Tonight I return to myself," or "I give the day back to the earth." Let the plant become a listening presence, not a goal-setting tool. Remember, this is not about fixing your sleep. It's about clearing space for your energy to do its own work without interruption. That's what Feng Shui does best. It sets up the condition for your natural intelligence to activate. In spaces where grief has lingered, whether from loss, breakups, or emotional burnout, lavender holds a particularly sacred role. It doesn't erase the pain. It simply asks that the pain take a breath. It sits beside sorrow without judgment. For many, this is the first kind of peace they have allowed themselves to receive. And that makes this plant not just an herb, but a healer. To summarize, lavender belongs in bedrooms not for scent, but for sanctuary. It brings the emotional temperature down, not by coldness, but by offering softness. It catches overthinking before it spirals, offers a fragrant pause, and holds space for rest that isn't just physical, but spiritual. If used correctly with restraint, intention, and care, it becomes a guide, not a sedative, not an anesthetic, but a gentle bridge back to balance. So the next time you adjust your room to rest better, don't just look for blackout curtains or white noise machines. Look for energy alignment. Look for what speaks without sound. Lavender in a small pot beside a warm light, refreshed with care, may be one of the most profound Feng Shui tools you could ever place in your bedroom. It asks for very little, but what it gives back, night after night, is the kind of peace most people are still searching for. And perhaps, with a little more softness, it will help you remember. The energy you sleep beside matters as much as the thoughts you try to forget. Let lavender hold the part of you that just wants to rest, without explanation. That's when real repair begins. Plant number 2, peace lily. Emotional detox, conflict release, and calm presence. The peace lily, or spathiphyllum, carries an energetic blueprint unlike any other houseplant chosen for a sleeping space. It does not simply beautify. It cleanses, clears, and composes. In Feng Shui, this plant does not symbolize fortune or action. It symbolizes release, stillness, recalibration. When you place a peace lily in your bedroom, you are not adding decor. You are making a decision to let go of arguments left unfinished, of grief unprocessed, of emotional clutter too heavy to name but too familiar to ignore. That's what makes this plant so vital, especially in spaces that carry not just bodies, but memories. Let's begin with its energetic function. The peace lily has an innate ability to absorb emotional residue from the environment. This isn't metaphor, it's energetic hygiene. In rooms where conflict has occurred, even subtle tension leaves traces in the air. A glance, a sigh, a thought held too tightly. That energy doesn't vanish when the conversation ends. It lingers in corners, near furniture, in unseen pockets of the room. Feng Shui teaches us that energy, like dust, accumulates. If it isn't consciously cleared, it settles and shapes the emotional tone of the room. The peace lily offers quiet intervention. It softens these jagged remnants, pulling them inward, transforming them into a field of calm neutrality. In homes where couples have gone through difficult seasons, where loss has passed through the walls, or where personal transitions have left the air feeling heavy, this plant steps in, not to fix, but to hold space for repair. Ideal placement is not arbitrary. The far corner of the bedroom, diagonally across from the door, is one of the most potent energy anchor points in Feng Shui. Known as the power corner, it holds the accumulated qi of the space and directs how that energy circulates. Placing a peace lily here signals a conscious intent to make the room not just restful, but restorative. If your bedroom is shared, positioning the plant between the two sleeping zones serves as a symbolic buffer, gently encouraging emotional equality and shared ease. It is the silent third presence in the room, not imposing, but aware. Avoid placing the peace lily directly beside the headboard. That energy is too close, too constant. This plant works best when it holds a perimeter, not when it floods the core. Now symbolism. The white bloom of the peace lily isn't simply pretty, it carries a message. In Feng Shui, white flowers signal endings, transitions, and purity, not in a decorative sense, but in a spiritual sense. The kind of purity that doesn't deny what happened, but gives it permission to dissolve. If your life has recently shifted through breakup, bereavement, or even spiritual awakening, the peace lily honors that moment. It doesn't rush healing, it creates conditions for it. The bloom itself emerges slowly, it doesn't appear on command. It opens when the plant and the space are ready. That's not just botany, that's a lesson. And here's where many people go wrong. They treat the peace lily like an air filter or furniture accent. But this is not a passive participant. It absorbs, which means what surrounds it matters. You must keep the area around it free of chaos. No piles of unread books, no cluster of charging cords, no tower of electronics buzzing nearby. This plant is deeply sensitive to electromagnetic fields. It doesn't thrive near charging stations, Wi-Fi routers, or television screens. These things interfere with its function, dulling its ability to recalibrate emotional frequency. Instead, place it somewhere quiet, where the energy of the room can flow toward it, not compete with it. Light, too, is part of the equation. The peace lily prefers indirect morning light. Symbolically, this reinforces its role as a soft beginning, a reset. Direct afternoon sunlight is too aggressive. If you notice the leaf tips browning, it's not just a horticultural issue. In Feng Shui, burnt tips are signs of emotional burnout, either your own or the room's. It's a cue, a whisper that your environment is carrying more than it should, that something needs to shift. Listen, this plant tells the truth quietly. You can amplify the peace lily's healing field with small enhancements. A polished piece of rose quartz nearby deepens the emotional softness. Where the peace lily absorbs, the quartz radiates. Together they form a cycle. One pulls pain inward, the other infuses the space with compassion. This isn't magic, it's metaphor made tangible. You can also place a small bowl of purified water near the base, another symbolic act that signals emotional fluidity and gentle cleansing. Remember, water and wood in Feng Shui combine to promote emotional growth, not emotional fixation. This plant serves a specific kind of person, someone who has held too much for too long. Empaths, caregivers, those who offer more than they receive, or anyone whose room has become a mirror of unrest. The peace lily doesn't work quickly, it works subtly. It doesn't blast energy into the room, it mutes the static. And in doing so, it creates the conditions in which restoration becomes possible. It won't make you sleep deeper, but it will help you stop fighting your own exhaustion. And that is the beginning of real peace. More importantly, it's not just about you. Your bedroom affects everyone who enters it. Guests feel it. Partners feel it. Even pets rest differently in rooms that are energetically aligned. The peace lily serves the whole field. It resets the energetic temperature and reestablishes emotional neutrality. And that's rare, because in most modern bedrooms, the dominant tone is not calm, it's leftover stress. Screens, notifications, delayed conversations, unread messages, energetic sediment that quietly piles up. This plant is your way of saying no, not to the past, but to its grip. To tend the peace lily is to tend to your own emotional clarity. Don't just water it. Wipe its leaves with a damp cloth. Speak to it, not with words, but with respect. Say, "Thank you for holding what I could not." You'll be surprised how much a room can shift when one element is allowed to simply listen. This is not decoration. This is devotion. This is what Feng Shui teaches us over and over, that energy is real and your space reflects your state. The peace lily in your bedroom may not speak, but it hears, it softens, it steadies. And in its quiet white bloom, it reminds you that healing doesn't shout. It unfolds, slowly, steadily, gracefully, just like you. Let it grow beside your growth. Let it release beside your release. And most of all, let it rest beside your rest, because that is what this plant does best. It holds what you're ready to let go of until one day you realize it's already gone. Plant number 3, snake plant, boundaries, energy filter, and protective strength. The snake plant is misunderstood by many. Its pointed leaves, often associated with harshness or aggression, have made some question its suitability for restful spaces like the bedroom. But in Feng Shui, sharpness does not always equal danger. When placed with precision and restraint, sharpness becomes structure, protection, and energetic filtration. The snake plant is not a symbol of warmth, it is a symbol of boundaries. It does not soften a room, it strengthens it. And in a bedroom, that strength, when used intentionally, can create the kind of invisible, energetic scaffolding that supports clarity, sovereignty, and restful self-containment. Let's begin with its most essential trait, filtration. On a physical level, the snake plant is a known air purifier, capable of removing toxins like formaldehyde and benzene. But this is not the level we're focused on today. In Feng Shui, the snake plant works less like a cleanser and more like a bouncer. It holds the edge of the room, it screens what's coming in, it doesn't ask for attention, and it doesn't respond to emotion. It stands upright, unmoved, and aware. That's why its ideal use in the bedroom is not as a focal point, but as a border. It belongs in the corner, not to be admired, but to be effective. Place it where energy tends to stagnate or where external chaos leaks in, near a window facing a noisy street, or in the corner of a room that often feels cluttered even when it's clean. There, it doesn't just absorb ambient tension. It acts as a symbolic sentinel, alert, grounded, and calm. This plant is especially beneficial for those living alone or navigating personal reinvention. Remote workers who spend long hours in their rooms often blur the boundary between rest and responsibility. They wake, work, eat, think, sleep, all in one space. Over time, that overlap begins to fray the body's internal compass. The snake plant interrupts that blur. It declares, without speaking, this is your edge, your boundary, your space to breathe and sleep, not to spiral or solve. And because it radiates strong yang energy, upright, firm, uncompromising, It reinforces the idea that your rest is non-negotiable. Now, caution is critical. Do not place this plant directly next to your bed or on a surface level with your pillow. In Feng Shui, too much yang energy near the head during sleep can create energetic pressure, restlessness, or even subtle anxiety. The point is not to dominate the qi field, but to define its border. Think of the snake plant as a wall, not a blanket. It keeps what doesn't belong out. It doesn't come in to comfort you, and that distinction matters. Symbolically, the leaves of the snake plant point upward with fierce stillness. In many Feng Shui schools, this shape is associated with truth, personal integrity, and silent vigilance. For people who've recently left emotionally chaotic environments, divorce, roommate separation, even toxic workplace exits, this plant becomes a physical affirmation that the new space they are sleeping in belongs fully to them, that nothing can enter unless invited, that their energy is not for negotiation. To balance its strength, ground the snake plant with earth. A terracotta or unglazed ceramic pot is ideal. Its porous texture absorbs the plant's rigidity and tempers its sharp feel. You can also place it on a soft jute mat, a cork trivet, or even a slice of natural wood. Never leave it on plastic trays or synthetic stands. Those materials distort energy rather than containing it. Once placed, wipe the leaves weekly with a damp cloth, not just for appearance, but for function. Dust dulls its ability to pull in and filter chaotic qi. A clean leaf is a clear signal. This plant is active, it's doing its job, and it's in relationship with the room. Do not cluster other plants around it. The snake plant is not social. It does not work well in overgrown plant groupings or surrounded by frilly foliage. Its power is in its solitude. One pot, one corner, one purpose. In some cases, for those with particularly heightened energetic sensitivity, a single tall snake plant may even be placed behind a curtain or partially obscured, so it filters quietly without being in direct visual line. That is the beauty of this plant. It doesn't need to be seen to be effective. Its presence is architectural, not decorative. For those recovering from overexposure, whether from crowded households, excessive socializing, or simply the burnout of being constantly needed, the snake plant restores energetic insulation. It reminds you that being alone is not being unprotected, that boundaries, when held with stillness and honor, are not walls of isolation, but fields of restoration. It does not invite qi in, it sifts, it selects, it upholds the integrity of the bedroom as a sanctuary of sleep, not a forum for unresolved thoughts or emotions still clinging from the day. This is especially important for people living in urban environments or high-rise apartments. If your bedroom shares a wall with noisy neighbors, if you hear cars speeding past at night, if your window overlooks a bright street light or a construction zone, the snake plant becomes a needed counterbalance. It doesn't silence the city, it shapes your energetic relationship to it. Like a curtain made of qi, it lets the light in, but not the glare. It lets the world stay out there so you can stay here. Used with moderation, this plant becomes a lesson in boundary work, not just physically, but emotionally. It models strength without force, presence without pressure. And for those ready to reclaim their rest, it doesn't ask much. Just one corner, a little care, a little respect. And in return, it stands there, silent, upright, always listening. Always guarding, always reminding you that rest isn't weakness, it's protected space. And sometimes the sharpest leaf carries the softest gift, peace through structure. That is the power of the snake plant in Feng Shui. It doesn't sleep beside you, it watches. And that, especially in a world that never stops, is a rare and priceless kind of stillness. How Celine Dion restored sleep after loss. Grief has a way of reshaping not just our thoughts, but our environment. After the passing of her husband, René Angelil, Celine Dion didn't rush back into tours, headlines, or even the spotlight. What she did first, quietly and intentionally, was something deeply human. She retreated into the space where healing had to begin, not on a stage, but in her bedroom. According to a feature in a behind-the-scenes interior design profile, Celine chose to redesign her personal quarters in her Las Vegas residence, not for show, not for guests, not even for sleep initially, but for restoration. Her instructions to the design team were specific: no bold colors, no sharp silhouettes, no unnecessary decor. She wasn't looking for drama, she was looking for softness. And at the heart of that decision were two peace lilies, one positioned carefully near the bedroom window, the other tucked into a small nook beside her personal altar, where she often sat in reflection. In an intimate interview, she shared that the peace lilies weren't chosen for aesthetics. "I didn't want something pretty, I wanted something gentle," she said. "Some nights I couldn't sleep, not because of noise, but because silence felt too loud. I needed something to hold that space with me." That statement reveals what many in Feng Shui have known for centuries: that plants aren't just decor, they are companions. The peace lily in particular becomes more than an air purifier or soft visual cue. It becomes a frequency holder, a container for the kind of energy that grief often depletes: presence, patience, and emotional breath. What Celine described, this longing not for silence, but for softness, is exactly why the peace lily remains one of the most emotionally intelligent Feng Shui plants for the bedroom. Because healing, especially after loss, doesn't need cheer. It needs companionship that doesn't rush, support that doesn't speak, a field that allows your nervous system to exhale, even when your mind is still circling memory. The white bloom of the peace lily doesn't demand attention. It stands in quiet readiness. It's a plant that doesn't push you forward, but holds space until you're ready to rise again. In Celine's case, those two plants became a ritual, not a solution, not a fix, a ritual. Each morning, she reportedly opened the window beside the peace lily to let in fresh air, light incense in the corner, and sit for a few minutes before the day began. There were no affirmations, no mantras, just presence, just breath. And in that simple, sacred rhythm, the plant played its part, not by healing her, but by helping her hold what was too heavy to release all at once. And that is the highest function a plant can serve in Feng Shui: not to alter your life, but to support the energy that makes living it possible again. So even in a life marked by global fame and constant reinvention, what helped restore the rhythm of rest for Celine Dion wasn't a new mattress, blackout curtains, or lavender oil. It was a plant, a quiet one, a peace lily standing in a corner, silent, soft, still, waiting not to impress, but to receive. And maybe that's the real lesson for any of us going through emotional turbulence. Peace doesn't arrive in a flood. It arrives in a leaf, a bloom, a breath, and in the choices we make to bring softness back to the places we sleep. Common mistakes to avoid with bedroom plants. When it comes to Feng Shui in the bedroom, less is not just more. It's mandatory. The bedroom is the most vulnerable space in the home. It is where your guard drops, your breath slows, and your subconscious begins to reprogram itself overnight. In this space, everything you allow in, whether a scent, a color, or a living object, it becomes part of your energetic conversation with rest. That's why the way you work with plants here must be intentional. The right one can soothe, the wrong one can stimulate. And these four common mistakes, often made with good intention, are the ones that most often disturb the very restoration we are seeking to cultivate. Mistake number one: overcrowding. In living rooms, a lush corner of greenery can feel alive and inspiring. In the bedroom, it creates confusion. When you fill the room with too many plants, the chi begins to scatter. Instead of calm containment, you introduce active dispersion. It's like inviting a garden party into a place meant for dreaming. One or two well-placed, energetically compatible plants are more than enough. Think of them not as decor, but as guardians. One quiet presence beside your bed can do more for your nervous system than 5 trendy pots on a shelf. Mistake number 2, choosing strong yang plants or thorny species. This includes cactus, large rubber trees, and plants with sharp or imposing posture. These carry defensive, outward-facing energy, useful in hallways or at doorways, but disruptive in a space designed for inward reflection. Yang energy by nature rises and moves. Your bedroom is where energy should descend and soften. The more intense the plant's personality, the more it pulls the room away from surrender and into alertness. And while some people claim they sleep just fine surrounded by such plants, the real question isn't whether you sleep, it's whether your sleep heals. Mistake number 3, placing plants above the bed. Feng Shui is deeply spatial. It's not just what's in your room, it's where it lives. Anything placed above the headboard carries a subconscious message: pressure. That includes shelves, artwork, and especially plants. Even something as small as a hanging ivy can send an energetic message that you're being hovered over or held to expectation. In rest, the energy should cradle you, not loom above you. Plants belong beside your dreams, not above them. And finally, mistake number 4, using artificial or plastic plants. In Feng Shui, qi is not symbolic, it's literal, and plastic holds none. Artificial greenery may mimic shape, but it doesn't carry life. In the bedroom, where you are seeking connection to breath, flow, and internal clarity, these faux versions block more than they beautify. Worse still, they tend to collect dust, symbolically and energetically representing stagnation. A dusty plastic fern near your bed may be the reason your mornings feel dull, your thoughts feel cluttered, or your emotional clarity feels hard to access. If you cannot tend to a living plant, it is better to have a clean, empty corner than a lifeless imitation. Ultimately, the bedroom is where your future begins, quietly, in the dark, as your body rests. And every object in that room either supports or disturbs that becoming. Choose plants that hold, not push, that soothe, not stimulate, that companion your inner world, not perform for the outer one. Who benefits most from this practice? There are certain seasons in life when rest no longer feels simple. When the act of sleeping is no longer a biological default, but a conscious choice to turn inward and find stillness in a world that moves too fast. It's in these moments of transition, tension, or tender rebuild that the right Feng Shui plant doesn't just beautify your bedroom, it begins to hold you. And who benefits most from this practice? Not just gardeners or aesthetes, but anyone whose nervous system is asking for relief, whose thoughts are gathering for room to breathe, and whose sleep is carrying the weight of too much waking. First, people going through transition or grief, whether you've lost a loved one, moved homes, ended a chapter, or simply feel the inner ache of something shifting, your bedroom becomes a cocoon, a space to not explain, but exhale. In Feng Shui, we understand that grief isn't linear. It lingers in the walls, in the linens, in the air. Plants like peace lily or lavender don't fix grief, they companion it. They stand beside your silence without needing to fill it. Their energy is not about cheering you up, it's about creating a safe field in which your sorrow can soften and eventually release. Second, couples needing to rebuild softness or trust. The bedroom is not just where we rest, it's where we reconnect. When that connection has been frayed by stress, conflict, or distance, the energy of the room often holds tension long after the words have stopped. A well-placed plant can act as a neutralizer. It doesn't take sides. It simply clears the emotional static and holds space for gentler energy to re-enter. Lavender whispers calm into the air. A single peace lily placed between two nightstands becomes a subtle, energetic mediator, not solving the relationship, but softening the field in which the relationship can breathe again. Third, individuals with insomnia or high-stress lifestyles. For those whose minds resist sleep, who lie down but cannot truly let go, the bedroom must become more than a place to crash. It must become a chamber of recalibration. The right plants here are not lush and stimulating. They are restrained, intentional, deeply yin. They whisper to the subconscious, "It is safe now. You've done enough. You may rest." A single snake plant in the far corner, not to overpower but to gently filter. A low pot of lavender reminding your lungs to slow down. These are the elements that help the overachiever remember. Restoration is also productive. Fourth, creatives or entrepreneurs whose minds won't turn off at night. Innovation is a gift, but it doesn't belong in your pillow. When your thoughts spark new ideas in the middle of the night, what's often missing isn't passion, but containment. Plants that support this group don't try to extinguish brilliance. They hold its edges. They provide a kind of energetic perimeter that says, "We'll return to that idea tomorrow, but for now, come back to stillness." In these bedrooms, we aren't trying to dim the light. We're learning how to shelter it. A peace lily by the writing desk, a snake plant near the window where outside noise intrudes. These become gentle boundaries between the world of creation and the sanctuary of rest. At the heart of this practice is one truth. These plants are not aesthetic accessories. They are energetic protectors. They don't push, they hold. They don't decorate your room, they shape your readiness to repair. And the way they help you sleep directly influences how you show up in your life the next morning, with more presence, more grace, and more clarity. Final. In Feng Shui, we don't treat rest as an afterthought. We treat it as a return, not just to sleep, but to self. Every night is a reunion with your inner world, and the objects around you, especially the living ones, shape the quality of that reunion. So when you place a plant beside your bed, you're not decorating. You're choosing an ally. You're shaping the field that cradles your most unguarded energy. The peace lily doesn't just bloom, it listens. Lavender doesn't just scent the air, it slows it. A single snake plant, when respectfully positioned, doesn't just stand guard, it protects without pressure. These are not house plants. They are boundary keepers, rhythm setters, co-regulators. They are soft anchors for the parts of you that don't need more pushing, but more permission to exhale. And that's what tonight's lesson has really been about. Permission to build a bedroom that isn't just functional, but sacred. A space where sleep becomes spiritual maintenance, where you don't just shut down, you're gently rebuilt. In stillness, in scent, in soft color and subtle breath. So let me ask you this and answer it honestly, not to me, but to yourself. Where does your room need more softness? Not more objects, more openness, more places where silence can settle. Which plant will you invite, not just to clean the air, but to hold your rest, to catch the parts of you that get scattered during the day, and to remind you nightly that peace isn't passive, it's protective. And now I invite you to become part of this intention with me. If this episode helped you see your space with new eyes, or reminded you that the bedroom is not just where you sleep, but where you heal, then I ask you gently, share it with someone you love, someone who's rebuilding their sleep, their rhythm, or simply their sense of calm. And please subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We're growing toward 2,000 subscribers, and every new voice helps us carry this message into more homes. Homes that don't just hold things, but hold the soul with care. Your room is already whispering something each night. Let's make sure it speaks peace. And if you'd like, share in the comments below. Which plant is entering your bedroom next? And what is it there to help you release?